Let's start by defining happiness. What is happiness? I would say that happiness is the combination of certain neurotransmitters releasing in the brain. Some of these are, for example, serotonin and dopamine, but it's not clear at which point of time in the releasing of the neurotransmitters that the feeling of happiness is experienced. But let's assume that we experience happiness when one of our receptors picks up on one of these neurotransmitters. And let's base that assumption on the notion that when people take drugs and overstimulate their brains, they're actually losing receptors, and because they're losing receptors, they don't experience the same sort of joy as when they first took the drug or experienced the high. Alright, now when we're done with all of the premises, we can start to work on this scary conclusion. So let's imagine that Elon Musk manages to advance his Neuralink technology to such an extent in which the Neuralink has full control over the brain. So you can pretty much write code to the Neuralink, and then the Neuralink will execute those orders inside of the brain. So let's imagine that you could pretty much decide which neurons should fire at which point of time, and for example how many neurotransmitters that are going to be released at the firing of the neuron, and how many neurotransmitters are going to be picked up by the neuron. And by allowing us to program this ourselves, and by allowing us to take full control over the brain by using a chip or some other sort of technology, we could theoretically maximize our own happiness, or I mean our own suffering, if we so please. But this sounds great, at least the first part, but that's not the whole story. The reason why this is scary is because we only act upon our own happiness. We make decisions because we believe that will increase our own happiness, and our brain releases dopamine to motivate us to make decisions which release serotonin. But if we have full control over all of these biological functions, and that our receptors do not actually decrease when we stimulate our neurons, this means that we have pretty much maximized happiness, and because we have maximized happiness, our bodies have no need to do anything else. Like, we're pretty much finished. Like, we should, because we have no reason to, right? We only act upon our own happiness. We only act because our brain is releasing dopamine, and the closer we are getting to the goal, to the serotonin hit, the more dopamine our brains are releasing. So it's kind of guiding us with dopamine. But if our dopamine is already maximized, we have no reason to do anything. We won't be motivated, we won't move. I mean, we will only be sitting there on a chair or something in a bed, just having this machine pump in serotonin and dopamine into our brains. And this is scary because we have really no reason to take care of other people or to conquer the universe, because we will be content in the position that we would be in if our neurotransmitters were maximized like that. But now you might ask yourself, what is the difference between using this machine and taking cocaine? The difference is that when you take cocaine or other drugs, your body compensates for the overload in neurotransmitters by decreasing the amount of receptors, and therefore decrease the amount of happiness that you experience. And this is why people feel withdrawal symptoms. While when you're using this machine, this decrease in receptors won't actually occur, and therefore this conscious need of not wanting to do it again won't actually be present, because you won't be feeling the lows after the high. But let me explain with the graph. I know it's a bit scuffed, but we have dopamine on the vertical axis, and then we have time on the horizontal axis. And now we can see that our baseline dopamine is at 3, and then we take cocaine, so our dopamine peaks to 5, and then it drops back down to baseline. But the last baseline feels different from the first baseline, and the reason why this difference is there is because of the decreasing receptors, which will have occurred because the brain is trying to compensate for the peak of dopamine during the cocaine stimuli. But with this theoretical machine, this decrease in receptors won't actually happen, so our baselines will feel the same, and therefore we won't have this conscious need to get off the drug or get off the machine, because we won't feel horrible after using the machine. And this might also explain some things, maybe. I mean, I'm kind of wandering off now, but maybe that's the reason why we haven't seen aliens, because they have managed to build this machine and they're not content at the position that they are in, right? They have no reason to conquer the galaxy because they have already maximized happiness. They have no drive. But of course, if we manage to create this advanced machine who has full control over our brains, we'll probably have pretty advanced technology as a civilization as a whole, and we probably have some advanced AIs who might be able to take care of us and to conquer the galaxy for us. And we might be able to create some sort of automatic maintenance machine or something like that, which just keeps the machine working and takes care of your body and stuff while you're in this Zen type state, which allows us to just stay inside of this machine forever. But it's interesting because I would assume that our bodies wouldn't really work if we have all of this dopamine and serotonin neurotransmitters firing all at once, and we have this thing around our brain which is pretty much controlling it. I would assume that we wouldn't be able to use our bodies properly, and we wouldn't be able to work while we're enjoying all of this happiness. But if we could work while pretty much bombing our brain with all of these chemicals, then I mean, technically humanity as a whole might be able to keep on running as it's doing today, just without people being in the same sort of conscious state. They would just be in a state of constant happiness, which might sound a bit weird, but yeah, that's where we're heading. I mean, this is technically good, right, if you ought to maximize happiness, but it's also a bit weird, right, because it would be such a different world than what we have today. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Subscribe if you want more videos like this, and I will see you guys in the next one.